The sun shines bright as it moves across my face. I feel the light and everything is in its place. Oh, I woke up feeling great. Today was made for me. And life is good the way it should, the way it was meant to be. And it's a beautiful day.
I always flinch when I hear colleagues saying things about e-cigarettes that they know or they should know are completely wrong or exaggerated or scaremongering. There's too much of that going on.
It's the tobacco industry who manufactures them.
They might or might not be able to help you quit, but there are definite harms that they can cause.
We don't yet know about vaping.
The dangers of e-cigarettes are clear.
It's the same as antifreeze.
You know, we used to have very dangerous products, and the makers of those used to lie about those.
There is the never-ending concern about the alleged effects of smoking.
The evidence is certainly inconclusive at this time.
We now have much safer products, and the public health community is lying about those.
The e-cigarette makers are making these for kids because they make chocolate and other flavors.
What's going on?
Money.
Funding.
Money.
Money is corrupting our most trusted organizations.
Money has something to do with everything.
The cover-up is real.
If you're a pharmaceutical company who's starting to see your share of the market on nicotine replacement therapy slide, what are you going to do? You're going to sit on your bum and do nothing?
Cigarette companies realize that e-cigarettes are now a threat to the old business.
And are they?
Huge threat.
165,000 kids die from secondhand smoke. Every year, 1 billion people will die this century from tobacco.
It's still a big deal. It's still, you know, around 20% of adults are smoking in many countries. 1 in 5. That's, you know, that's not going away at the moment. It's certainly not going away quickly.
There is a solution, but it will cost big organizations billions of dollars. Smoking, it's good business, so they lie.
We know that they don't actually allow people to stop smoking.
Now there's even more evidence that these are a gateway to smoking regular cigarettes.
The pollution of disposable.
And the e-cigarette industry has been ripping tactic after tactic from Big Tobacco's playbook.
Today's electronic cigarettes are no better than the Joe Camels of the past.
It's about one of the biggest public health interventions potentially of all time.
If you look at e-cigarettes, growing evidence that this could be the breakthrough that we're waiting for.
1 billion people could die in the 21st century. If these things take off, potentially hundreds of millions of lives could be saved.
This is a miracle. This is, you know, an absolute public health miracle in the making.
I'm coming home. No need to worry. The road is cold. You're not alone. I'm coming home. No need to worry. The road is cold. You're not alone. I'm coming home.
On August 6th, the award-winning documentary, A Billion Lives, comes home for its North American premiere at the historic Pabst Theater in beautiful Milwaukee. Following a year of production on 4 continents, this highly anticipated movie exposes worldwide government failure, big business corruption, and the battle for 1 billion lives projected to be lost this century to smoking. Tickets are on sale now at the Pabst Theater box office or pabsttheater.org. It's time for truth.
And welcome everyone to a special edition of Permits Fogcast, episode number 5 for the week of August 1st, 2016. Thanks very much for taking the time to stop by and pay a visit. Your support over the first 4 episodes has been extremely overwhelming to me, and I'm very humbled by your incredible response. I was never expecting my audience to grow as it has, and I just can't thank you enough for your continued interest and support. I'll continue to try to do my best to bring you quality information that you don't mind sitting and listening to for, a half hour to an hour, and we'll just do our best. As I mentioned, this episode of the Fogcast is a special edition. Our regular format for this episode will not be in place. The episode will be without my vaping story and also the device debut. Based on the events taking place this week, our focus will shift for this episode, where our focus will be on the North American premiere of A Billion Lives, and we'll also have an incredible one-on-one interview with Australia's Dr. Attila Danko to further educate us on our 3-part series of the vaping crunch in Australia. We'll also be discussing the FDA and the August 8th deadline that is looming. And also we'll have my rant segment, A Permit to Piss Me Off, to close out the show. Now, this is strictly my opinion. I strongly feel that this coming Saturday, August 6th, 2016, is a date that's importance exceeds most dates within our community. And yes, I am even speaking of August 8th. I feel that the premiere of A Billion Lives is far more important at this point than the August 8th deadline. And I'll explain that further in the Fogcast. The time has finally arrived. A Billion Lives makes its highly anticipated North American premiere at the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this Saturday evening, August the 6th. The truth will finally be exposed. Now, if you've been living under a rock for the last couple of years, or you've been misinformed by its true nature, A Billion Lives is an independent documentary film produced by Attention Era Media and directed by Aaron Biebert. A true story about the public relations campaign and corrupt practices employed by Big Tobacco and Big Pharma to stall the growing e-cigarette industry. It brings to light the way large corporations manipulate government regulations and use them to entrench themselves to prevent competition from entering the market. The cover-up is truly real. E-cigarettes are a real threat to the old way and the old business of Big Tobacco. Third world countries are now the marketplace for tobacco. Lives are being lost, leading to 1 billion deaths. Smoking is truly still good business. This documentary exposes the corruption in America's regulatory system and how it's affected the vaping industry. It also brings to light the problem of giant multinational corporations manipulating global regulatory systems by funding and spreading false research and using government regulations to choke out competition from small business. A Billion Lives exposes clear conflicts of interest in the FDA and trusted national health organizations, focusing specifically on the vaping movement and the web of lies that are being cleverly woven to sway the public opinion in order to protect the interests of large companies without regard to public health. Aaron Biebert, the director, said, "This film will infuriate you and leave you wanting to do something about the corruption in what should be our trusted government." Now, it promises to be a full weekend extravaganza, with the feature attraction getting underway on Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can check out to see if there are still tickets remaining at the Pabst Theater box office or by visiting pabsttheater.org. Now, the tentative schedule for the weekend at this point: Friday, August the 5th at 7 p.m. That is the opening night at the Intercontinental, which is adjacent to the Pabst Theater. Enjoy an epic night out with director Aaron Biebert, members of the cast, and the Milwaukee-based crew. Now, on Saturday, August the 6th at 12 p.m., there will be a lunch at a top secret location. Details will follow. 7 p.m., the red carpet festivities begin at the historic Pabst Theatre. The premiere will start at around 8:15 p.m. And at 10 p.m., the after party begins, and that is presented by Molecule Labs. The main after party will be at the Whiskey Bar in Milwaukee, starting at about 10 p.m. It's not far from the theater, apparently. It's just a couple blocks east on Wells Street. Just look for the searchlights. There will be a dress code at that location. No hats, but there will be sleeves required. It is a classy place, so you can contact them for questions about dress code. They will be allowing vaping there and encourage high wattage devices to be used on the torchlit patio. How cool is that? Check them out at whiskeybarmilwaukee.com. And for those that are looking for something a little more casual for an after party, they'll have a sister site nearby at the Belmont Tavern. There's no dress code and it's open air. You are free to vape however and wherever you would like. You can visit that location at the belmonttavern.com. How cool is that? It's going to be an epic evening. Hello. Yes, in case you didn't know, and if you're going to be there, look for him. My buddy, everybody's buddy, Gizzard Stew, is going to be at that event. Just feature, if you can, Mr. Gizzard Stew in a tuxedo with his spork. It's going to be epic. I wish I was going. I truly, honestly wish I was going, but I'm very, very happy for my buddy Gizzard. I've been very excited. He was one of the first guys that I knew that pounced on getting the tickets when they went on sale, and it was announced that the premiere was going to be taking place in Milwaukee. Now, following that, Thursday, August the 11th at 7 p.m. to approximately 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the Harkins Theater's Bricktown 16. That's at 150 East Reno Avenue in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Tickets for that one available at okc.abillionlives.com. Keep up to date for dates in your area. Visit abillionlives.com. And at the very top of the webpage, when you get to abillionlives.com, there's a place to enter your email to receive updates from A Billion Lives and to keep up to date on the events and where they're happening, when they're happening, and so on. So we'll wrap up this segment of the Fogcast on A Billion Lives. We'll just touch a little on the background of the show. When Aaron Biebert realized that electronic cigarettes had the potential to save lives, he was pretty excited about it. But then he quickly realized that Big Pharma and the media were spreading a lot of lies that could potentially ruin the vaping industry before it really reached its maximum potential. And that's when he made the ambitious, bold decision to create the documentary. Aaron said that he decided to create A Billion Lies after he realized that some scientific studies were spreading more lies than truth about e-cigarettes. When the New England Journal of Medicine published a study showing how e-cigarette vapor had more formaldehyde than traditional tobacco cigarettes, he took notice. He said he had friends that had quit smoking after taking up vaping, and he was quite concerned finding out that e-cigarettes were worse than tobacco. After I mentioned that study to a vapor, he said, they pointed out to me that one scientist's rebuttal showing that the entire study was built on the false premise of overheating the liquid. The entire study was a sham. But it's not just one unreliable study that's doing the harm to the vaping movement. There are many, and the public rarely does their research when they hear of these kind of lies. They tend to believe everything they hear on the news, and vaping has quickly developed a bad rap, and it's something that it simply doesn't deserve. And to make matters worse, it's estimated that 1 billion people will die this century from smoking-related causes. So why aren't scientists embracing vaping when they show such promise as a real way to stop these deaths? Aaron said that there is a story there. It needs to be told. And through his film, Aaron hopes to open up some new conversations and ultimately promote a truth movement about vaping. I'd like the film to be used as a way to open up conversation, he said. There's so much animosity between anti-vaping forces and the vaping advocates This will allow politicians and leaders to step out of the fray and focus on the facts. The media weighs in periodically, but plays it too safe or focuses on negative stories that are often incorrect. He said that the film would provide the information that the public so desperately needs right now. Interestingly enough, though, Aaron is a non-smoker and he doesn't vape. Although he has tried it to gain a better understanding about what vaping is all about. And he said personally he's not against smoking or vaping. He thinks that people need all the information laid out on the table and then be able to make an educated choice based on the facts. A lot of vaping advocates believe that big tobacco is the number one enemy for our community, but Aaron isn't so sure about that. He's not a fan of big tobacco, but doesn't think that it's the biggest enemy of the vaping community. They just want to make money, and that's something that we can all trust. They are starting to do just that by selling e-cigarettes. At the Global Forum for Nicotine, he sat beside a vice president of a major tobacco company, and he had indicated that they would like to switch as much of their business to e-cigarettes as possible. He said that there's a heck of a lot more money in that market. So if big tobacco isn't the problem, then who's behind all the vaping myths that we could constantly hear about? Aaron called out a few enemies by name. The bigger problem is darker corruption forces at work. Big pharma, big media, big charity, big legal, and big government all have an addiction to money, and they're sacrificing their core missions in pursuit of it. We all know that there's so much at stake for the vaping global community, and the truth is more important than ever before. We all know what's taking place in all areas of the world with regulations, and we all know that these bans are only going to backfire. Anywhere that vaping has become popular will most likely see a vibrant black market pop up in the face of the ban. Anywhere they ban vaping before it really takes off and reaches its maximum potential, we'll see the status quo maintained, which is a lot of smokers dying. On the other hand, Aaron Biebert believes that regulation isn't so bad. He's all for it. Some regulation is probably good. He likes to know what he puts in his body, so labeling requirements are helpful, and that supply should be exclusively for adults. And we all agree with this. We've always maintained that. Yes, there should be a proper regulatory framework laid out where it's not lumped with tobacco, it's not treated as such, it's not taxed as such. But there should be some regulation. And we're all in agreement of that. So again, guys and gals, that's this Saturday evening, the North American premiere for A Billion Lives, finally, at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time at the Pabst Theater in Milwaukee. And Billion Lives recently announced that Senator Ron Johnson, the big push on, he's the one responsible for the big push on FDA in answering their overreach. He wants some answers, and that's still in progress. He's going to be there. Herman Cain, talk show host Herman Cain, Molly Fay, Stephen Phillip, Corey Piper, Ray Nitty, Phil Basardo, Vicky McKenna, Dan O'Donnell. And this is one that particularly interests me, is health leader Dr. Delon Human. And of course, director Aaron Biebert, the man himself, will be there as well. And last but not least, don't forget, hello, Gizzard Stu in his red cock tuxedo and his spork in all his glory. And we hope he has a blast down there. And speaking of Gizzard Stu, the Tuesday following the Billion Lives premiere, August the 9th at 8 p.m. Central on his channel, he'll be hosting Project Fog and promises a great lineup with a very special guest. You're not going to want to miss it, and I'm sure that Gizzard will have lots of stories about his weekend experience at A Billion Lives premiere weekend. Can't wait for it.
G'day fucking dickheads, it's the Vaping Bloody Bogan, and you listen to Hermit the Fog, sub-on your fucking dicks off.
The Vaping Bogan. I had the fortunate opportunity to sit down for pretty close to 3 hours with him the other day, and next episode you're going to hear that interview. It was a great time. Sam is a fantastic guy, very passionate about the industry, very passionate about the community, and very passionate about advocacy as well. I think you're going to enjoy that one. And coming up shortly, we'll have an interview with Dr. Attila Danko, also from Australia. The rugged situation they're facing down there right now, but there's some positive light. Dr. Danko, fantastic guy. I've been a follower of his for quite a while now. The head of the new Nicotine Alliance down in Australia, and I think you're going to enjoy that as well. So at the beginning of the show, I had mentioned that it was my opinion that I felt that the August 6th premiere of A Billion Lives was a little more, it held a little more importance than even the August 8th deadline that's fast approaching as well. Let me explain that and why I came to that conclusion is basically, as far as the regulations go, it is what it is. There's nothing miraculous that's going to take place in between now and the 8th. And there's nothing, I'm seeing a lot of mixed signals still out there. A lot of people still don't really fully understand what's going on August 8th. And I'm going to go into some of those details here shortly. But the thing is that we all got to remember is that this isn't the end. This isn't doomsday. This isn't where the bomb drops. This is the beginning. This is how you have to look at it. Yes, there's several out there that have been advocating their butts off for the last few months. But don't give up hope and don't feel like it's worthless. I'm seeing a lot of that within the community as well. And I know it's been a long fight. I know it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. I know it doesn't seem like there's any light at the end of the tunnel, but there is. We just have to continue to stand vigilant, stand united, and just focus on the task at hand. And that is all it needs to be. We still got to drive forward. This is going to be a long, drawn-out process, and August 8th simply symbolizes the beginning of that fight. So hang in there, hang tough. Continue doing what you're doing. Continue to educate, continue to advocate, continue to contact your representatives. Write handwritten letters and mail them. It's going to be far more effective than just emailing. Continue to follow CASA.org, notblowingsmoke.org, the VTA, the AVA. Just continue to keep the fight going. Now, August 8th. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here to represent anything in that fashion. These are strictly how I understand things. I'm just relaying them on to you in case you don't understand what exactly is going to happen on the 8th, which is next Monday following the Billion Lives premiere. First off, no new products or changes to existing products can be introduced to the market until the FDA authorizes such sales through a marketing order based on successfully completing either the SE or the PMTA pathways or applications. You can only sell to customers 18 years or older, and you need to check photo ID of anyone that appears to be under the age of 27. You're no longer to give away free samples. You're no longer allowed to sell products in a vending machine, and you must prevent product adulteration by operating your facility in a sanitary manner to avoid contamination of manufactured or shipped products that could pose a risk to public health beyond the risk of the product itself. And finally, you must avoid any and all misbranding of products, as the FDA will start enforcement on false or misleading labeling and advertising. This includes modified risk claims. So let's just run through those again quickly in more from a consumer standpoint, in layman's terms. So the first one, no new products or changes to existing products, basically just means a market freeze. What is on the market on August 8th is where it's going to freeze. Nothing new that any of the manufacturers put out will be allowed on the market unless it's approved by the FDA through the PMTA process or an SE. You can only sell to customers 18 years of age. That's pretty straightforward. If you appear to be under 27, you're going to get photo ID'd. Giving away free samples, meaning that you can't go into the vendors and sample juices and whatnot. I'm not going to elaborate much, but I've heard through the grapevine that there may be shops that are going to have some kind of a charge that will be donated to Advocacy. I'm not 100% on that. No longer allowed to give away free samples would also mean, as far as I understand, that reviewers will no longer be doing giveaways. You're no longer allowed to sell products in a vending machine. That's pretty straightforward as well. You must prevent product adulteration. That one strictly just means what it says. The B&Ms are responsible for keeping their shops in a sanitary manner. Not just the B&M, manufacturers as well have to keep everything top notch and clean. You must avoid any and all misbranding of products, as the FDA will start enforcement on false or misleading labeling and advertising. This includes modified risk claims. What that basically means is that there can't be any false representation on any of the products, be it the juice or hardware, and you can't make any claims any further that smoke or that vaping is better than smoking, or that it is going to save your life, etc., etc., etc. As I said, there's a couple things you can do if you want to try to read into this a little further. Go to fdaregs.info, check it out there, and also check out Suck My Mod. Matt from Suck My Mod did a video in the last couple days explaining basically the same thing, and he goes into a little greater detail. That's a great video to watch as well. Now, as far as the importance of the documentary A Billion Lives go, it's extremely important for it to finally be premiering in North America, because once this cycle of premieres and screenings is done with in North America, the sooner that DVDs and Blu-rays and possibly Netflix, etc., will come out in the theaters as well. It's going to be a little bit of a process from here on in yet with that as well. However, you have to understand the nature of the film itself. It's not just a movie about vaping. It's about how vaping is being regulated in a corrupt manner. And it is going to be a very, very effective tool for educating non-smokers, smokers, and people that currently vape. It's going to be a great, powerful tool to all involved. And it's something that we all need to stand behind and utilize. A lot of work went into this film, and it's going to be an enormous tool for us all once the circuit is complete. And don't be impatient and be complaining because it's not on Netflix or you can't get a copy of it. This is Mr. Biebert's film. They put a lot of work into it. It was a lot of years in the making, and it's his film. So let it run its due course. Get out where you can. Go to billionlives.com. At the very top of the page, when you get there, there's a place to enter your email. You enter your email, you're going to be kept updated as to where the screenings are taking place, the dates and the times, and then you can connect with A Billion Lives on their Facebook pages. Aaron Biebert does daily updates on different things that's going on. He was even out at the Pabst Theater shooting footage from around the area and just posting it on Facebook. He's very active with it. He's working very hard at it. And keep in mind, it is his film. They've studied the most effective way to get the word out on this, and it simply wouldn't be to just make this film and drop it into Netflix. It just doesn't work that way. So be patient, stay stay vigilant, stay up to date with it, and get out to see it and support the film wherever that's closest to you. Let's enjoy it and utilize the hard work that went into it as a very effective tool.
Good afternoon, fellow minions. Welcome to Yeti Wire. How can I help you?
Yeah, hi. We're here to see Mr. Yeti. We want to talk to him about some coils.
Yeah, we want to meet him. Well, no problem, gentlemen. I'll page him for you. Mr. Yeti to customer service, please. Mr. Yeti to customer service. Holy shit!
If you're looking for the ultimate vape experience, look no further. Introducing Yeti Wire. Beautiful handcrafted coils that will perfect any atomizer. Currently available in staggered fused Clopton, Alien, Caterpillar Mechanic Track, stainless steel fused and twisted coils. Unbelievable pricing starting at just $5 per set. And always remember to befriend a Yeti, hug a Yeti, and buy from a Yeti at Yeti Wire. YetiWire.vapeshack.org.
Glorify your goon with Yeti Wire.
Joining me now is Dr. Attila Danko, an experienced, busy general practitioner in Australia. He's a huge advocate for the liberalization of the laws in Australia that effectively ban nicotine. He receives no payment or inducement whatsoever from any pharmaceutical, tobacco, or electronic cigarette company. And he is currently in the preliminary stages of working with Professor Ron Borland, Nigel Gray, on a upcoming study in Australia on electronic cigarettes. He also is head of the New Nicotine Alliance in Australia with fellow members Donna Darville and Jenny Stone. Welcome to the Fogcast, Dr. Danko. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me.
Glad to be here.
Great. So let's just paint a little bit of a picture of how vaping became such a focus in your career.
Yeah, well, I was a smoker from the age of 11 myself, and I struggled with smoking on and off my whole life. And, I gave up for a year at a time. But in that time that I'd not smoked, I was always looking for opportunities, maybe to bum a cigarette at a party or go somewhere where I might get one. And I found that I just wasn't functioning as well as I would with smoking. I just found that I just loved smoking so much. It was such an important part of my life that, I just kept on relapsing back to the smokes. And in the end, I decided I would giving up because life, wasn't, I felt so much better in myself when I was smoking than when I wasn't, although it was hurting my health. And then obviously 4 years ago, I came across vaping and, as I'm sure all of us did, we thought, oh, this looks interesting, let's give it a go. Weren't sure if it would work or not. I dual used for 1 year. I still needed to have one cigarette in the morning and one at night. And I'm one of those that, I needed a bit of something else, a bit of snus as well to help me off it. And once I'd done that, once I got onto that, and a little bit of nasal snuff for just a short period of time, I was able to give up entirely. And, I was amazed at, how I was able to give up without trying. I actually, when I was vaping, I never tried to give up. Perhaps I would have been successful if I actually tried, but I wanted to get the holy grail for me was to transition without any effort at all, like to not have to make any effort. And so that's why, because I know there are a lot of vapors who almost every vapor will substantially reduce their smoking. There are still significant numbers of vapors who can't get off smoking entirely. And I wanted to experiment on myself so that I could help other people who might be in the same situation to find a way in which to transition without any effort whatsoever. Or if they were struggling and putting in the effort but without getting the results, having other methods available, I think is also important and also a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, going back a little bit to the struggle, I think that I've always been of the belief that our society brainwashes us into believing that it is such a traumatic thing to go through, and that you start defeating the purpose at that point just with that. Add in all the added chemicals in traditional tobacco cigarettes, it really does put a person.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, there are many people who pick it up and quit by accident as well. There are those people. There are people who can give up cold turkey fairly easily, and there are other people who really struggle and suffer a lot. And I think that the maximum options that we have of safer alternatives, the better it is for health and for people's chances to get off. The advent of high-end mods and sub-ohming has also helped a number of other people who wouldn't have been able to get off with the smaller devices that I started on. And that could have been part of it too, was that back when 4 years ago, we mainly had CE4s and that sort of stuff. And I don't know if you remember the experimenting with Genesis and the stainless steel mesh and all that sort of thing. So vaping's certainly come a long way. And, I want to make sure that everyone has the chance to access all the options available. Yeah, that's sort of more of a personal story. And in terms of how I became involved in advocacy, that's a bit different. So being a doctor, of course, I knew that I had a potentially powerful part to play in the vaping movement, that I had that instant credibility and knowledge of the science and ability to talk in the language of healthcare and public health. But I, for a couple of years, I tried to see what I could do on my own, made some links with a couple of people in public health in Australia who were keen about tobacco harm reduction. But there was always a big frustration in terms of creating an advocacy group of consumers in Australia. There was a big forum, which had a lot of people who were just keen to shoot down anyone who tried to do anything. And at least 3 attempts to create an organisation were basically sabotaged from within. And I decided that I wasn't going to get involved in political fighting. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to fight other vapors. I wanted to fight the government. I wanted to fight anti-vaping public health activists. And so I worked in the background. I talked to some politicians, talked to some public health people. I started a Twitter and got very active on there and got lots of Twitter friends, particularly from the UK to start with. And I mean, Twitter's a great medium to practice political debate because you have to put short phrases, you have to punchy lines that, and you just practice that over and over again. You're thinking about how can I say this in a brief way? And that's exactly what you need to be able to talk to the media, to be able to do politics. You need, short phrases to punch through. You might only have 10 seconds in an interview or 20 seconds. You need to be able to state your case. And look, I'm still not an expert at it, but it was great training. And after being active on there for a while, I get an invitation from Jerry Stimson from the Global Forum on Nicotine to come to the global conference last year.
Right.
And so I had also, before this, I was invited to a forum in Victoria to be a consumer voice about e-cigarettes and vaping. And at the last minute, my talk was cancelled. So I had this talk ready to go, and they had some issues, legal issues, because I was going to pronounce on stage that I was a criminal for giving up smoking, and how I wondered how they felt about that. And suddenly my talk was cancelled. So they didn't want to hear that. They didn't want me putting that point across. And because you see, they've got this wonderful story that vaping is a plot by Big Tobacco to hook young kids onto lolly-flavoured vapor. And they don't want anything interfering with that story, with that myth. And I was going to throw a massive sledgehammer through that myth in that talk. So I was very frustrated that I didn't get a chance to get that out. And so when I had the chance to go to Warsaw, I just as an aside, I said, well, can I give a speech there too? And they said, yeah, sure. And they had no idea who I was. I had no idea who they were. They didn't know me from a bar of soap. They took a major risk there. So I prepared this speech for about 3 months beforehand. I studied what makes a good speech, how to put it together, practiced it, rehearsed it, refined it, cut it down. Then I delivered the speech in Warsaw. I got a standing ovation, and there was just such a huge response from what I said there that the Delon Newman, who was one of the people, chairing the meeting, asked me, so Attila, what are you going to do next? And I hadn't thought of it. And I had to come up with something. And so I said, well, this is going to be the platform for bigger things. And so after that, I was sort of, well, look, I had no choice almost, I had to go and do something else. And so with Donna, who also came along, Donna Darville came along as the other Australian vaping advocate, we talked with the New Nicotine Alliance UK, and because they'd been so successful, they'd basically turned the whole public health establishment around, so that in the UK, you're seen as a loony if you're against, if you believe in the same restrictions that we have in Australia, you'd be seen as quite off the wall, quite fringe opinion. It's widely accepted. There's debate about how much restriction and whatnot, but the central fact that vaping should be accessible to smokers is not questioned at all. And so we thought, well, let's go with success. We'll just take the template of your organisation. We'll take your website. We'll copy that. We'll take your organisation and how you set it up. We'll copy that. We'll just copy everything that we can so that we can hit the ground running and start advocating in Australia.
From what I've been able to follow, it's very tough. Doing my research on interviewing yourself and Sam and Paul, it's very difficult. It's almost like a media blackout or something to get anything other than anti-vaping propaganda as far as information and research. I was able to dig some stuff up, but you take a country like what's happening in Poland right now, I was able to obtain an incredible amount of information of both good and bad, but it seems like within the Australian area is mostly the propaganda, like you said, the stories about, it's how bad it is for kids, the lolly flavored juices and whatnot. That is the type of stuff that comes up when you're trying to do the research.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. There's, the tobacco control establishment here is extremely strong and extremely strongly against vaping. And it's led by Simon Chapman, who is an international anti-vaping advocate. He's very charismatic. He's very well-spoken. He knows politics very well, and he's been doing it for 20, 30 years. Right. He's got networks deep within government. He's advised the government on several actions to take. So he's a very worthy opponent. But
I think he was he not? Was it 2 years ago that he headed the the movement for playback tobacco packages.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly, and it's something that the public feels is failing to an extent. I mean, based on the numbers that I was able to obtain, where the rate of cigarette smokers in Australia is dropping. They don't want to give vaping any credit for that. Approximately 15,000 Australians a year die from cigarette smoking, and it costs the Australian government ultimately the taxpayers, approximately $31.5 billion in social, including health and economic costs. In 2015, Australians spent approximately $3.2 billion on cigarettes. And since March of 2014, there have been 3 of 4 12.5% excise increases, with the fourth that's coming up on September 1st. And that essentially brings up the average cost to $1.20 per cigarette, or $24 for a 20 pack. So, I mean, that could be part of it as well. But from the quick math, let's just say from ages 14 and up, there's a population estimate of about 18 million. And there's statistics show 15% of those smoke on a daily basis. So out of those 15%, let's take 3.5 to 5%, which have switched to vaping, which brings the vaping community to anywhere from 100 to 125,000 vapors in Australia. And those numbers have doubled from 2013 up to this point, but are dropping a little bit at a time here. And I think it's due to the recent scare tactics from the government. Do you agree with something like that?
Yeah, look, it's very hard to get exact figures. One thing that we do know is that certainly places like the UK and the US, until now in the US, it's been pretty much available everywhere. That the smoking rates, particularly in the US, have been plummeting far faster than Australia's smoking rates. And, if you look at daily smoking rates, the US is probably about the same as Australia, maybe even a little bit below, even though just a few years ago, smoking rates in the US were significantly higher than in Australia. So the rate is dropping far faster with harm reduction in the mix. It's very difficult to get exact comparisons. Australia likes to trumpet daily smoking data. America likes to talk about smoking in the last 30 days, which obviously captures a lot more people. And so if you look at those figures, you see, oh, well, Australia is, much better than any other country, but we're much better at massaging the figures, I think, more than anything. And look, the prices have made some impact, they have to, but how much of an impact are they making on transferring people to black market tobacco, for example? I think that's a very big problem here in Australia, and it's underground, and it's hard to measure. Our opponents will say, oh, but, illicit tobacco is down as well, and yada yada, but, how can they really, the figures are quite, are very inexact on that. But the main thing is that the smoking is down far faster in the last couple of years in the US and Australia. It's quite impressive how fast they're falling there.
Yeah, there was an article came out just a couple days ago out of the UK on the current market, and I mean they're figuring that we're sitting close to about a $6 billion market rate at this point in time, and they're projecting by 2018 that that's going to grow to about a $15 billion industry. And I mean, then we get to those numbers, we're getting into big tobacco numbers, and it could really potentially. Going back just to your epic speech there at the Global Forum on Nicotine in 2015, that's where you coined the phrase, we can, we must, we will make tobacco obsolete. And on a daily basis, you're seeing things go in that direction more and more every day. The community is growing despite all what's going on with the governments, is really continuing to grow at a very rapid pace.
Yeah. And in Australia as well, it's growing every month. I talk with my local vape shop owner, and every month sales are increasing. every month more and more people are switching despite the potential criminalisation. But what I've tried to emphasise is that it's a bit of a toothless tiger, to be honest. That there has been like 1, maybe 2 prosecutions for people for possession of nicotine, and they are very reluctant to prosecute this. There are plenty of policemen who vape. They also know that we are now politically active and have contacts in the media, that if they were to prosecute someone for possession who was willing to stand up, and there are plenty of us who are, that we would win. That would actually be the victory for us. And I would welcome a prosecution myself. But it's not happening quickly. Like, I've admitted to being a criminal on national TV, vaping on national TV. And, I thought, I was really scared. I mean, I thought, am I going to be deregistered? Is there going to be some consequence? Because on the books, the laws say that possession is equivalent of nicotine is equivalent to possession of heroin. And that's how ridiculous the laws are. And if that was to happen, I would take it all the way. They might try and fine me, and I'd refuse to pay the fine. I'd get a massive media circus behind me. If they confiscated what I had, I'd pull out a packet of cigarettes and start smoking for the media, and I'd show them how these laws are sending people back to smoking. That I'd been given up for 4 years, and now I'm smoking again because the government says this is what's approved, this is what I should do. I shouldn't do the 95% safer alternative, that I should kill myself by smoking. That's what they'd prefer. So, but look, Simon Chapman is clever politically, and he knows that's not the right thing to do. He knows that politically that would defeat them. That would defeat the illusion that they've built up.
I asked Paul and Sam the exact same question, and I'd like to get it from your standpoint, from a general practitioner. As you know, I'm Canadian, and for decades, the UK, Canada, and Australia have proven to be the world leaders in harm reduction, not always just with tobacco, but in harm reduction in general. And the UK has taken a very progressive stance on vaping, as well as Canada here. We are looking to create our own regulatory framework for vaping and treat it like its own entity. It's not going to be treated as a tobacco product or regulated as such. But what seems to have happened with Australia, in your opinion? How come they've kind of fallen off that bandwagon?
Yeah, look, I do think it is because of Simon Chapman and a couple of other people who are also politically very well connected. But we actually do have people in public health who are very pro harm reduction. But the thing is that they live within a bit of an echo chamber, and Simon is the ringmaster of that. And he's been able to convince them all that vaping represents more of a threat than a benefit. And so, he's built this whole political push towards restrictions and bannings, and we don't know enough yet. But at the same time, we are getting some runs on the board. We have got Alex Wodak, who's seen as the father of harm reduction internationally. He started the first safe drug injecting rooms in Sydney, and I'm in regular contact with him. And he's a medical doctor as well. And he's recently, in the last few months, he's come right on board with vaping, and he's trying to do what he can to progress the agenda. And he's starting to make some inroads. So we are getting more and more people in public health who are, sitting on the fence. And, I heard at a conference that they were almost whispering about, look, I do think vaping is a good thing, but I'm sort of not allowed to say it. So there's a number of people who are quietly agree that we should embrace vaping. But they're not at the moment. It's like it's like a heresy in religion to stand up and say, "Yep, I support vaping." So while people feel that their reputation and their career could be damaged by making such statements, they stay in the background. But there is a huge underground swell in all sectors. In politics, there are politicians who are becoming more and more, seeing that this is a good thing. There are politicians who are vapors. There's one of our most active social media people who's really pulling this rally together in Melbourne. He recently met with an MP, a member of federal parliament, who's a smoker, and he seemed very interested by vaping. And he's in one of the major parties, and so he's going to do what he can to convert this MP to vaping. And so, as we convert more and more people, they percolate through all sectors of society and create this push. It's just such an obvious thing that as we get more people, it's a movement that can't be stopped, and eventually we will win. But the question is, how long will it take, and can we make that time shorter?
Let's just talk briefly about what happened in New Zealand here in the last couple of days. I mean, that was an area of the world that was very much in the same kind of situation Australia is in as far as their regulations. But the government has recently conceded that vaping is actually safer than traditional cigarettes and has proposed to legalize nicotine for vaping. So do you foresee the Australian government ever changing their view? Do you think that this will actually put pressure on the government to rethink the strategy?
Oh, absolutely. It's going to put massive pressure on Australia. It's a fantastic thing. And I always knew that New Zealand would win first. After going to the premiere of A Billion Lives over there in Auckland, or in Wellington rather, going to that theatre and seeing all these luminaries from public health, Murray Lawgerson and Marawa Glover and several other people who are all in the public health system. They don't have a Simon Chapman over there. And the majority of public health has been in favour of vaping, probably as much as the UK public health. And I mean, they had the first big trial on e-cigarettes, they've so that's a big factor, I think, in New Zealand changing. I knew they had to, and they did it quicker than I thought they would, because I mean, what they've said there is that they will. That it is their intention to legalise nicotine for vaping as a consumer product. There's still some question over smoke-free legislation, whether it, they're saying that they want to subject it to some of the restrictions of cigarettes. But at least, you can vape you will be able to vape in New Zealand without being a criminal. And it'll be able to be sold in shops as it should be. So, politicians look at the writing on the wall, they look at the way the wind is blowing, and the more countries that we can have going this way, the better off it is for Australia. And New Zealand and Australia have always been very closely linked, and what happens there is going to make politicians, stand up and take notice.
Yeah, and that's just it. I mean, I think personally, for the sake of the community and the sake of the people that are still smoking, it's very important that the option is given to them and the truth on both sides is given to them as well, so they can make a rational decision. And I think as advocate, that's been my passion the entire time. There's a lot of reviewers, there's people keeping up on all the latest and greatest mods and stuff. I just cannot fall into that as much as I know what it did for me, and I want to make sure that my neighbor that's still standing outside his house when it's -30 is going to have this option. And so that's where I'm at. And I think it's important for anybody that cares about what vaping has done for them or a family member that they get out and spend just a few minutes each day, every opportunity you get, just to educate and to bring out the truth, because we're not getting the truth from the mainstream media, obviously. And it's firsthand accounts is a big issue with our community. And that's what's going to continue to make it grow.
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I talked to the people in the NNA UK as to what made the difference there, because I wanted to find out everything that they did because they were successful. And, you know, I believe that replicating success is the quickest path to victory. And they said the main thing was that they went and they talked one-on-one with people in public health. They showed them the devices. They said, look, this doesn't look like a cigarette. Look, you need to be able to learn how to, you know, unscrew it and to fill it. And the devices are different. Different devices appeal to different people. Telling them about how they tried to give up using this, that, and the other, and none of it was successful. And finally, their lives been saved by this. And so those personal stories that they make the biggest difference of all. And that's something that every single vapor can do. You know, every single vapor has their vape that they can show, and every single vapor has their personal story of how it got them off cigarettes. And the more opportunities we have to get those one-on-one talks, the better off, you know, the more success we're going to have.
Something that I see in every corner of the world, the communities are rallying together. I do see a fair bit of activity. While doing research, I was able to flip through some forums and whatnot in Australia. And there really is a great interest on getting it through to the government that, you know, this is a good thing. And so you do have some backing. And we'll just touch now on what's going to be taking place here in the next couple of weeks. I noticed a few days back, you posted on your Facebook that you were at the Parliament House and you met with MP Fiona Patten. Is there any enlightenment you can give us on that and what that's leading to?
Yeah, so a number of vaping advocates and some vape shop owners, all of us met with Fiona Patten, who's in Parliament. She's a member of a party called the Sex Party. And which gets a bit of giggles, but it's actually a serious party that's a progressive libertarian type party. You know, standing up for rights of gay people and for you know, they also are very sex positive, obviously, and pleasure positive, which is what this is all about. Is about we can only transfer to this because it is pleasurable. And that's a point which is so often missed, even in public health. And she's been very supportive of this whole campaign. And in the meeting, we discussed what we can do about this upcoming legislation. And a suggestion came up that we should have a rally on the steps of Parliament. Our group had the same idea a few weeks before, but because we didn't know how much support there would be, we were a little bit reluctant to go ahead with it because we figured if there's a rally and only 6 people turn up, it looks like it doesn't show strength, it shows weakness. But since this meeting where there were 20 people around the table, all of them saying that they would be there, and that all the shops would try and get their customers along, we decided, yep, right, well, this is the time now. We have got enough, a critical mass, that we can, all these people are supporting a rally, so let's do it. And the call went out on Facebook yesterday, and there's been hundreds of vapors have been joining our vapors policy group. There's been lots of call outs and encouragements of people to get together on this to all make a big turnout. This will be our very first public demonstration in Australia. There hasn't been one so far. The legal issue has kept people afraid and wanting to just hide away in their corner and stockpile their nicotine. But this finally is bringing people out. You know, the indications are is we're going to have a good, decent rally. We've got another doctor who's supportive, very supportive, called Colin Mendelsohn, coming down from Sydney to speak. I'll be speaking. And we'll have vapors giving their stories as well. So this is the other great thing about a demonstration is, again, it's another wiping away of a myth. Because if this is simply an industry plot to hook kids, then what are people doing demonstrating for their rights? You know what I mean? Like, it's a totally different ballgame. The tobacco controllers always complain about big tobacco lobbying behind the scenes, big money being exchanged. And here we are, just ordinary people, grandmothers, pensioners, middle-aged people, all who have been set free from smoking by vaping. And we're wanting to preserve our rights to continue to stay smoke-free. That it creates a perception which is very different to what the media has been painting and what the tobacco controllers, the myths that they are trying, the stories that they're trying to maintain, which, those myths are starting to fall away, and we want to do everything we can to make them fall away.
Okay, well, let's get back, just a little plug there. That is the Save Vaping Rally, Tuesday, August 16th at 12:30 p.m. That'll take place on the Parliament House steps, number 1 Spring Street, Melbourne, Australia.
It's going to be very exciting, and I think that there are going to be consequences that go far beyond the rally, just the fact that we're finally becoming politically active, that we're going to be together doing this rally out in the open. There's going to be a lot of shameful vapers who keep it secret, who will be encouraged to do it in the open, to show other people what they do. But we're going to feel like we're part of a movement. I mean, this is extremely exciting. It's a historic occasion, the first vape rally in Australia that we've ever had.
Right.
And, it's going to be great fun. It's going to be really exciting. And we're going to really, I think, show the politicians.
Well, exactly. And, the thing is, too, the way that the laws are laid out, where you can't buy or sell nicotine, but you can import it. Well, we all know that you've got to be very careful about what you get out of China, for instance. And, we bring in a new vapor, and he knows no different, and he finds some nicotine dirt cheap on the website, orders it. We don't know what type of contaminant that's involved with it, what's inside it. It's like with a lot of our food products, there's a big percentage of our food that we have really no idea what's coming in from other countries, that what's included in the products. But with the nicotine thing, that's a pretty dangerous step to put your people in position. And being that it's a socialized healthcare system, you'd think that they'd want to be a little bit more concerned about what people are actually, they should have a variety of safe, clean nicotine, because they're going to do it anyway. So might as well, don't say you can go and get it from somewhere else. Have it on the table so they can buy it from us, and it's going to be nice and clean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all... because of the situation in Australia, we all import, at least 100 milligram per mil nicotine. Some people are getting 200 milligram per mil nicotine, simply so that we can make sure that we don't have to go back to smoking, so that we can store it in the freezer. Most of us have, at least 5, 10, 20 years worth of nicotine stored up. Just in case they go, full prohibition on us and lock down and close down the imports. And all this does is it increases the risk to consumers. That if we had just a local vape store, we could go and get our pre-mixed liquid. That's what we'd do. But because they're making things much more dangerous. I don't think the biggest problem is that they simply haven't looked at the issues. They haven't sat down and looked at them in a comprehensive way and getting opinions from us. We are the experts, but from the government's perspective, we're just victims of an industry plot, and that the real experts are the Cancer Council and the Quit Victoria and all these people who have no idea. They still think that e-cigarettes are in the shape of cigarettes, and that they all come from tobacco companies. They talk with each other. They reinforce their own propaganda in an echo chamber. They refuse to talk to us when we ask to meet with them, and they persist. They want to remain ignorant because it serves their purposes.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something that's amazed me as well. Is much like Canada, we have strong ties with the UK. There's a lot, like even Simon Chapman himself had ties and was involved with the Royal College of Physicians, and I'm not saying that their word is the be-all end-all. However, being that their study showed such a strong positive result as it did, you'd think that there would be some change of opinion in the harm reduction field that would take note of this and be saying, no, this is something that we got to take a serious look at.
I think it has made a difference. You know, I've got a couple of printed copies of that Royal College of Physicians report, hundreds of pages. It's extensively referenced. You flick through and they can see all the research that's gone behind it. And, you know, I mean, this is the Royal College of Physicians. This is probably the most authoritative and legitimate medical organisation in the whole world.
Right.
And if they're saying this, if they're saying that we should encourage smokers to switch to vaping, then you know, they've got to take pause and to think, you know, have we been sold we've been sold a dead duck by these other organisations? It's you know, so look, everything that we do counts. Every little bit that comes along that is in favour of vaping, you know, makes a difference. It is a long battle. It's an erosion battle. We've got to erode that opposition to it, bit by bit, person by person, and we'll get there in the end. And you know, I do see things changing in Australia slowly but surely. See things changing around the world, and you know, so I'm as I said, I'm optimistic. I wouldn't be in this if I didn't think we could win this.
Dr. Attila Danko from the New Nicotine Alliance in Australia. Brilliant man. Very, very calm, cool, collected. Great to sit and talk to. Has a great story. And we're going to hear more. That was part one. Part two is going to come next episode. What I've decided to do is an all-out Aussie Rules episode with part two of Dr. Danko's interview, also the vaping bogan as well. I had a segment for Permit to Piss Me Off, my rant section, all lined up for this week, but as I progressed through putting this episode together, I've decided I'm not going to include it. And the reason is because of the nature of what's going on this weekend with 1 Billion Lives and such an inspiring, cool interview with Dr. Danko. I didn't want to tarnish this episode with a rant of any kind. So forgive me for that. I'm not going to include it. We're going to wrap things up for this episode, but I promise the next one is going to be fantastic. All out Aussie Rules episode, Dr. Attila Danko part 2, Sam Parsons, the Vaping Bloody Bogan as well. And we are going to talk to you then. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen. As always, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep on vaping. And if you're heading off to 1 Billion Lives this weekend, have yourself a fantastic time and make sure you say hi to Giz.
The sun shines bright as it moves across my face. I feel the light and everything is in its place. Oh, I woke up feeling great. Today was made for me, and life is good the way it should, the way